Above the start cleaning those tires up. During this time, remember they fan out down there, so protect that bottom. Sunday drive. All right, boss man. These cars off. Be ready. Bud, be ready. Gas that bitch up. Ready. Green flag. Green.
Welcome, everybody, to the Inside Pass. Another week of racing talk, and our panels have kind of changed a little bit. Noah's not here, but Lenny Byticki's here from PRN's At the Track, and we are gracious enough to be able to be the lead-in to his show on WSIC every week, Saturday morning. So he's here to help us talk about the Coca-Cola 600, one of the most prestigious races in motorsports, really, but especially in NASCAR. And we'll talk all about the history of the race. It's going to be a little different this year because we actually have fans in attendance and for the first time in a long time. So
it's going to be a lot of bells on this show.
It just feels good. You know what I mean? It just feels right to be able to, and we get to talk about the Indy 500 on Indy 500 weekend, which is even exactly. It's not August.
Keep them coming, man.
August 27th.
Somebody take it away from him.
So that bell's going to get a workout.
The buzzer will come in.
Tonight.
Buzzer will come in.
Yeah, I'm sure the buzzer will come in at some point. But Peter's here, Chris is here, Tom is here, and so we're going to talk all about the 600. I guess we'll kind of start with the origin of the race and just the fact that if you look at the NASCAR schedule every year, this is the staple of Memorial Day weekend, along with the Indy 500. But it's one of the most unique and difference-making races, Peter, on the whole entire circuit. I mean, this is a true endurance race for all these teams.
It truly is. It's about what driver and what team can outlast 600 miles. Obviously, 100 miles further than any other race. They're racing day, evening, and night typically at Charlotte Motor Speedway, so it's a real test of who's good, when, and who can capitalize.
It's an endurance test, Tom, not only for the drivers but for the teams as well, because as Peter said, this is a race that starts in the daylight, ends at darkness, and you really have to keep up with the handling of the car all night.
See, I feel like the challenge has sort of shifted a bit, because it used to be that the cars had a hard time even lasting 600 miles, Lenny, and now I feel like the cars could go 800 miles if they had to. It's still a real endurance test for the drivers, even though there's a lot more sort of creature comforts these days that they have with the cool suits and all. But the challenge of going from day to night, I think it's become a much bigger deal, Lenny, for the crew chiefs and the teams now than even for the drivers or the cars.
Yeah, to find the way and the when. When do you make those adjustments?
Yes.
How much do you adjust in any one time as you're coming down pit road and you make those adjustments? Those little fine things do make the strategy and all the processing that goes on in this race, and the off-track race directors that are in the ears now of these crew chiefs, going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, when you look at how long this race is, 600 miles, 400 laps, this is the one race where we don't have to worry about the caution flags, the competition cautions, or the stage breaks coming at random weird laps or whatever. It's 100 all the way across the board. So it's basically a 100-lap dash 4 times. But when you look at the endurance factor of this race and how long this race goes, it's like a 6-hour race from start to finish. And you look at just how long this race can be, it really makes you appreciate, Peter, how these guys are true athletes of the sport, because you're looking. I know temperatures this weekend going to be close to 90 degrees, so that means by the time we take the green flag at 6:30 or so, we're still going to be looking upper 80s for air temperature, which means the track temperature is going to be somewhere around 115, 120, and of course it'll cool off as the night goes on. But I mean, this is a gut wrenching reality check for a lot of these guys.
I get tired just watching the 600 some years. I couldn't imagine driving at 100% for 600 miles or doing 10, 11, 12 pit stops from a pit crew member. Yeah, you're only working for 12 or 15 seconds at a time, but you got to be perfect every time down pit road for more pit stops than you'll see all year.
This is a test of my ADHD.
Is this one of the races where they're going to have practice and qualifying?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I feel like you need it for 600 miles. You can't just set up the car and go. There's a lot of adjustments that need to be made, and setting up your car for the day to transition into the night is going to be important.
It's interesting too, because Peter, you mentioned the drivers driving hard for 600 miles. I remember Kevin Harvick a couple years ago when he made the statement that back in the day that wouldn't happen.
No, you kind could cruise some.
You had your part of the race. You just kind of cruise through it to get to the end. Nowadays, with the stage breaks and all the points and everything, it is a 600-mile sprint race, which makes it complete. Again, from a physical endurance and even mental endurance standpoint for the drivers, it's a completely different race than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
It is now the highest points-paying race in NASCAR because of the fourth stage.
Yep. That's
true. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. And, you want to grab up as many of those as you can get. And if you can, really, you could significantly change your playoff outlook in one day night.
Yeah, that's true.
Coke 600 can do it for
you.
And
it can happen from day to night.
It can.
You could be in great shape at the end of the day, and by the end of the race, because it's dark and you missed your setup, when you changed over, you just dialed yourself right out.
And you said it earlier. I think it's the crew chiefs that are going to be the ones that the setup day to night, the change when they make those changes.
Yep.
I think these teams, all with the sim and things like that, pretty much have the same guess that it's going to be when you pull that trigger. And how the track and you react, that's where the real game's going to be.
Yep. And I think a lot of times, when you look at qualifying, back when we had qualifying, some teams would set their cars.
Could you explain to us again what that is? We've forgotten.
So what happens? But a lot of teams, a lot of crew chiefs would set their car up for what the race conditions are going to be like toward the second half of the race. So a lot of these guys would qualify terribly. You look at like the Ryan Newmans and Matt Kenseth; those are guys who always never could qualify higher than like 15th place. But they were always there at the end because their crew chiefs would set their cars up knowing what the conditions would be like 2 hours from the beginning of the race, so they could basically play catch-up toward the end of the race. Here, I almost feel like it's kind of a lot like that. You'll see a lot of teams, especially with qualifying, where they'll set their cars up to think, based on the notes that they have from previous years, how the car is going to react to the changing of the daylight. So a lot of these guys will set their cars up for what the car will drive like at dark as opposed to the daylight. So some of these guys might be terrible at the beginning of the race and then come back, when it starts getting dark. Tom.
It's really interesting how it evolves, and the fact that you go through that change too. You got to manage the race car, but you also got to stay within striking distance. You can't. People think, well, you could get 2 or 3 laps down and win. Well, that was true 30 years ago when you had such a disparity of speed between cars. Now it's really, even with the wave arounds, you got to be in just that right spot. It's really difficult to make up a lot of time. So, when you have an occasional race like Martin Truex had a few years back, was it 14 or 15, where
he just was a monster
like
then.
6 laps, you just don't see that very often in the 600 just because of the way that the race plays out. It's very hard to be dominant like that from start to finish, Lenny.
Peter, do you think, that some of the teams will use the first stage break as an extended competition caution and try to almost gather more information and say, well, we want to win the second, third, and fourth stage. If we're going to sacrifice one, let's try to figure this out in the hottest part and set up our car, as Randy was saying, maybe for the second half of the race, temperature-wise.
I think so, because if you look at the first half of this race, it pays 20 points, and the second half, obviously, you get the win and the playoff berth. So I see the first stage, if not first 2 stages, as an extended practice session, just logging laps, trying to get more laps, more time on track.
I was about to say, if I'm throwing away any stage, I would want to go out and run the first stage really well and maybe use the second stage as that setup stage, just because it's getting closer to the majority of the race that's going to be in the nighttime. You can set it up more to adapt easier throughout the rest of the stages.
Good point. Yep. Temperature there will be close.
That's true. That's true.
If you look at some of the history, the very first 600 was run back in 1960. Joe Lee Johnson got the win. 600 miles. I don't know. And pole speed back then, 133.9 miles an hour.
Chattanooga's Joe Lee Johnson, probably not related to the California Johnson.
Okay.
Or the Junior Johnson. He's over the mountain from Junior.
So did you know Joe Lee? Is that how you know he's from Chattanooga?
Just one of those things when you're around it so much, you remember where Joe Lee Johnson was from.
It's not like Joe Smith or something like that.
No, and I can't remember whether it's Boyd's or Crossville or one of the grassroots tracks in that same zone there. typically runs a race in his honor.
Interesting. Okay, Speedy Thompson won the second race in 1960, and that was the 400 that year. And I only mention that because again, his pole speed 133.5. So the first year was about 133 miles an hour. Now let's see how sharp Lenny is. Where was Speedy Thompson from?
Well, I don't know that one. I could have played it out and said, look, it's got to be less than 2 minutes. So if I just BS my way, because Chris is telling us we got to break soon.
It almost sounds like a Connecticut, like a Northeast name. I don't know why, but
maybe,
like Thompson. Yeah, I just keep
Speedy
thinking
Thompson.
Connecticut or something
From
like that.
Monroe, North Carolina.
Oh, well, there you go. So that's
Stat
not
boy.
anywhere close to
Sitting
where I
in
was
the
thinking it was. But
Sylvan
whatever.
Richard Petty won the third race, by the way.
So,
second 600.
Pop quiz for Peter. Do you know what year they first ran the Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600 together?
Wouldn't it have to be 1960, the first Coke 600?
1974. That's the first race where they ran side by side.
Was it Coke on Memorial Day or was it June?
Well, it says
thought?
the Open, it's 1974. They raced head-to-head on the same day. So before 1974, they were held on different days. So.
Yeah, I think there was a June race, maybe the first one.
Well, the first 600 was held on June 16th.
Yes.
There was construction delays. So, which is interesting. So when we come back from break, Lenny may know the history of how this track actually came about, but I was reading it as you guys were talking. It's actually an interesting story, and I feel like it's a really cool story to talk about. So we'll do it when we come back from break, because I know we're about to go to break here in a little bit. But so there's a lot of things, and I know Lenny can probably talk a little bit about the history, the recent history of this. The pre-race show dates back to obviously honoring the military, and this is Military Appreciation Month and things like that. And they always do really cool things with the Chinook helicopters and the military and the flyover and the things like that, which I know has kind of been scaled down. But now that we're at 100% capacity, hopefully we'll get a really cool pre-race show out of this whole thing. And we'll talk about that when we come back. More about the Coca-Cola 600 and Indy weekend when we come back. More Inside Pass right after this.
Do you love the sound of high-revving motors and the smell of burning rubber? Do you want to get your car sideways right at the ragged edge of control? If you've always wanted to try drifting or learn to improve your drifting skills, Summit Point Motorsports Park, the Mid-Atlantic's premier motorsports facility, has the expert instructors and the specialized track to teach you how to drift and the skills necessary to drift competitively. From skid pad to open sessions, Summit Point Motorsports Park has the safe and open environment that allows drifters of all skill levels, new to intermediate, to get sideways and smoking. With a focus on safety and the skill set necessary to drift competitively, Summit Point Motorsports Park's Drift Nirvana is just the thing for you. Call for your reservation today, 304-725-8444. Or for more information, go online, summitpoint-raceway.com, or you can email them at office@bsrinc.com. Drift Nirvana, getting you sideways the right way.
Victory Custom Trailers is the place to go for your next new or used trailer or coach. Being personally involved in the racing community allows Victory to fully understand what racers need in a trailer. They have over 200 coaches and trailers in stock for a variety of industries, and they can serve anyone in the continental U.S. If you're looking for something custom, they can assist in designing a trailer to fit your needs. Check out their entire inventory online at victorycustomtrailers.com.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up, do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
What an awesome game. What's up with your car? I don't know. It won't start. How are we getting home? Chill. My parents signed me up for the roadside assistance from Lenny Byticki. It was free with my oil change. They'd come and get the car started or get us home and tow the car to the shop.
Good to know. With my driving, my parents never know what to expect.
When you join the Meineke Car Care Club with a $35 preferred service, you get 4 free months of roadside assistance, including tire change, battery jump, lockout service, towing, and more. Contact Lenny Byticki, located on Route 1, or call 827-2054.
When do you think of a plumber? Like most people, even if it's an emergency, you can be confident about who will arrived to help you. For quality and reliability, count on someone you can trust. Call on the plumbing services of Hague Quality Water of Maryland. Plumbing doesn't have to be an emergency. We handle all kinds of preventative maintenance too. Hague Quality Water of Maryland is family owned here in Annapolis since 1993. For a refreshing choice, call us at 888-84-WATER or visit us online.
Hello, race fans. This is Chris Wright. Thanks for listening to these guys. Some great radio hosts. You're listening to the SI Pass.
Well, I guess it kind of rings true. We haven't really seen anything yet, and this is this is the first year since 2019 that the races have been held together, Indy and the 600. So we'll have to see how. I'm sad Monaco's not part of the festivities this year. That's horrible.
I told you we worked some buzzers in.
I was thinking about that on the way here because I was like, if the F1 decided that they wanted to do another race on Memorial Day weekend, I think it'd be cool if they did, because they've been talking about wanting to do like a street course in like Las Vegas or somewhere in California. It'd be really cool to do it on Memorial Day, because then you'd have the West Coast race in the morning, the Midwest in the afternoon, or kind of mid-morning afternoon, and then East Coast at night. So all three of the major series would be in the United States on different coasts and in the mid, and it'd work itself out. I think it'd be kind of cool to see how that would work out. I don't know if
they are racing in Miami next year, so
that's true.
I don't know when they're going to do it.
But I know they were talking about like doing an F1 race on the West Coast, either California or Las Vegas, somewhere like that.
Just do it in L.A. and just run down Rodeo Drive.
I mean, that could even do. I'd be cool with like Laguna Seca or someplace like that.
Mountains,
just, somewhere. But I think it'd just be cool to have F1 on the West Coast, Indy in the Midwest, and then NASCAR on the East Coast all in one day. It'd be kind of cool. Anyway, welcome back to the show. We're talking about the Coca-Cola 600 and the history of the race. And
before you get into it, this thought just popped in my head. Could you imagine them doing it in the same state? Could you imagine F1 racing in Miami, NASCAR racing in Homestead, and Indy racing in St. Pete?
See, they talked about that,
yeah,
but they decided that it would be like from the crowd. It would be pulling against each other.
And they would have to shut down the whole state of Florida because there'd be too many people.
Yeah. There was actually discussion about that.
It'd be kind of cool I feel like NASCAR would be cool to run at Daytona, like run their
traffic on I-4 is bad enough already.
Yeah, I was going to say
that. You get three different series all racing down there, and then of course, like it'd be like February where all the dirt cars are down there in Volusia, and it's like this huge, week-long.
I actually like the West Coast idea. That would be a really neat deal cool. to do that. Except that you'd be starting the F1 race at like 6 a.m. West Coast time.
I mean, what would be?
Don't they do that already on Memorial Week?
It's like, that's when it's on TV, but the race itself didn't.
It's like in the afternoon in Monaco.
It's later in the day.
But still, I think it'd be, I'd be excited for it, to be able to say, all three series, and, who would maybe want to attempt to try to do a triple, but, it'd be hard to fly from L.A. or, Vegas to Indy and then Indy to Charlotte. That'd be a lot of
I would just like to see somebody do the double again. Get somebody to run Indy and Charlotte at the same time.
I'm sure it's coming. I think this year was just one of those years where I think a lot of people just wanted to see how things played out. And then next year, if everything works out according to plan and things go better, I think you might see a couple people try to do the double. I think it'd be kind of
Jimmy
cool
Johnson and who else?
Kyle Busch.
Or even Kurt Busch trying it because I know or Larson will run anything you put your mind.
Didn't Busch want to do it too? Doesn't Kyle Busch want to do it one year?
He does. He said he wants to run Indy, but
Joe Gibbs and his wife Samantha both said no.
No, actually, it's in. Kyle said it's in his, whatever contract he signed most recently. It's in the contract he can run it.
Interesting.
Now, whether the wife says it's a whole different thing.
His driver contract says he can. His home contract says he cannot.
That may be a different.
That contract outweighs all the other contracts.
How about the other way? How about an Indy guy coming and jumping in?
If I was going to do that, I would love to see Scott McLaughlin come and do it.
Joseph Newgarden wants.
I was going to say Newgarden because he's from Tennessee. That's NASCAR country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Power lives in Troutman.
Have we seen that? I know
that's right.
I know we've seen. Indy drivers come over for a season, but have we ever seen the reverse double where an Indy guy comes and runs NASCAR?
Not that I've
not for the 600. No.
I think John Andretti.
I was going to say when you consider John Andretti's Indy past, he was both, and he was NASCAR guy more by then.
He was both. There hasn't been an exclusive IndyCar guy, at least. I mean, in a number
like the Mario days,
right?
Maybe.
I don't even.
But
know,
he didn't do it then.
Yeah, I don't think anybody actually did that double. Crossing over, it's a different deal. But for the 600 specifically, I don't think an IndyCar guy's ever done that.
Well, I think a lot of it just boils down to some of the IndyCar guys, maybe didn't grow up around NASCAR as much. So
James Davison
really
had the
understand.
opportunity to do it. If he would have ran Indy this year, he could have went and ran.
Could have ran both.
Yeah, James just sort of, he got so excited about the NASCAR stuff that he just decided that he didn't want to do Indy this year. He wanted to focus solely on really learning the NASCAR side of things.
It's neat to see him do the Chili Bowl a couple year or two ago too.
Yeah, I mean, and of course that's a whole other thing. That's January and everybody's
But I mean, just as versatile as that guy is, I don't think it's out of that. Like Chris said, he could do it. He could go back and forth.
I think so. I mean, again, it's really that's the biggest thing that I remember Kurt Busch saying, and I think Tony when he did it, was just the fact of you got to really keep yourself hydrated.
See, I was with Robbie Gordon when he did it. And,
that's right. Robbie did it too.
The hydration was absolutely the key thing.
Yeah.
He went into so many different things to be able to get hydrated, stay hydrated, be able to liquidate the hydration when needed.
There is that.
And to be able to go back and forth. And he was such a marketing sponsor type. He actually filled up a jet, like a 30 or 50 person jet with sponsors that made the trip too. So that was really cool for those people. He had a bus at the Little Concord Airport and took them all over there because that's how I got back and forth, was on that plane with them, and then was with Robbie at Indy and such. And it was really an experience. And the morning of the Indianapolis 500, such a special one. It's kind of like the pre-race at Charlotte with all the military and the pomp and circumstance. It's a celebration of this country, the heroes, and motorsports all in one.
I think coming back to the Scott McLaughlin point I made earlier, what would be interesting, especially, at least for me, with the Penske guys running that occasional 33 car now. Scott McLaughlin was a supercar driver, and the next gen cars next year are set up a lot more like a supercar style show, or a superstar style car.
We are a superstar
giving that
show.
a bell for that.
And it would be cool to see him, especially now that he's running full-time IndyCar, and how quick he made that adaptation, because he's been running really well, to see him come and run the next gen car at Charlotte.
How about if they do some kind of thing where Cindric does both and McLaughlin?
Yeah, the swip. So Cindric goes and runs the Indy 500, and like they do the double
and
reverse.
The sponsors reverse on each car to each.
Roger,
each
are you
villa.
listening? Please?
Yeah, we got this all worked out, don't we, Chris?
We'll make a portfolio. We'll go and hand it to him.
Exactly.
You know what I feel like though is Cindric might be a little tall for the.
He might be,
because he's so tall. He might be actually a little tall to fit comfortably in an Indy car.
He'd be the one you could spot, from the backstretch, and he'd be like,
his legs would reach down to the wing.
There goes
Right.
Cindric.
He'd have a little added downforce.
I don't have a doubt though in Austin's capability of adapting.
Yeah,
that kid has been successful in everything he's run, which is way more than what most drivers have run in their careers. And he's only
global rallycross and all.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. One of the people that came to mind when we were talking about that is Santino Ferrucci, because I know he's done the Xfinity Series. But it'd be kind of cool if his Cup debut was the 600 and he ran the Indy 500, earlier that day. That would be
and
really
Santino
cool.
has the talent for it,
for sure,
and the energy too. He's a little ball of energy, that kid, and just an extremely talented racer. I don't think. I feel like Santino is not even, he's still working his way up to his peak. He's probably got 3 or 4 more seasons before he would hit the peak. And I don't think we know how good he could be if he gets the right opportunities yet.
That's true.
In NASCAR.
Where is peak nowadays? Remember it used to be like almost 40 for a NASCAR driver.
Well, you didn't start till you were 16. And,
right.
But now you're starting at 5.
Has it moved, Peter?
I know.
What do you think?
David Smith over at motorsportsanalytics.com has all kinds of data saying a driver's peak statistical season is their age 39 season. So it's still that late 30s, early 40s.
But you know what? I think that still takes into account a lot of the older guys. I would argue that I think the peak is different for every driver. It really depends on your conditioning and the shape you keep yourself in. Harvick, I think, is still. I don't think Harvick's lost.
In my opinion, Kyle Busch is going to set that new bar. Mm-hmm. I think Kyle Busch will go longer than most, just because of how successful.
If he wants to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at a certain point, though, you break so many records that like you have nothing else left to race for at that point. Because
I don't know. I feel like Kyle's desire.
I think championships are.
Championships
are always a reason.
But I mean,
he's nowhere near 7 yet.
No,
he's going to get to a point where he would much rather just be his own, do his own thing in the truck series or wherever he wants to be and do Kyle Busch things.
I feel like he'll be around a while.
I mean, he's one of those drivers I feel like, when their competition side of their career is over, obviously there's the ownership side, and KBM would easily make a good Cup Series team down the road.
Be a great spot for Brexton.
Yeah,
exactly. So.
What I was waiting to slide in, Brexton and Harvick's son and all of them with now rising quarter midgets and go-kart kids there. That's a distraction that really weighs on you.
Gosh, yeah, when you think about it, you got Cash Boyer, you got Little Larson there, you got Keelan Harvick, you got Brexton. Gosh, who else? I mean, I don't know. Are either one of Jeff Gordon's kids still racing? I don't.
He did the quarter midget, but I never saw it extend. Yeah.
But anyways, by the way, to get back to the conversation about Charlotte, Kyle Busch did win. I was thinking that maybe I was going to say he still hasn't won a 600, but he did in 2018.
Before we get too far from the Indy topic, one person I want to look out for, speaking of kids, is Pietro Fittipaldi, making his Indy debut, who ran a number of races for Haas last year.
Hickory Motor Speedway track champion, by the way.
He was, late model track.
Model.
I said that to somebody the other day. They're like, no. I'm like, I'm telling you, he was. I watched it. He's a really sharp guy. I think you get him, if the car's right, he'll drive it to the front.
Yep, that is true. All right, we are going to step aside here and take another break. When we come back, we'll have more talk about the 600 and the Indy 500 and the entire week of Memorial Day weekend racing. We'll talk about that when we come back. More Inside Pass is right around the turn. Stick with us. We will be right back.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Automotive technicians and auto service trainees, how would you like to work at the beach and perform for one of the best car care centers in the nation? Louis Meineke is now looking for skilled automotive technicians to join their award-winning team. If you're a gearhead that knows his or her stuff, or a young up-and-comer that has the motivation and drive to succeed, then you need to make this call today. 302-827-2054. Louis Meineke Car Care Center, located in beautiful Lewis, Delaware, offers a highly competitive compensation plan, great benefits, a flexible schedule, and did we mention that you're going to be working at the beach? Plus, there's a signing bonus for the right candidates. Technicians must be ASE certified and have a minimum of 6 years experience. Beginners advance at your own pace in one of several entry-level positions. But whatever you do, don't wait. These jobs will go fast. Call Tim at 302-827-2054. That's 302-827-2054. Louis Meineke Car Care Center. Rev up your career.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right. It's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette. It's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
Victory Custom Trailers is the place to go for your next new or used trailer or coach. Being personally involved in the racing community allows Victory to fully understand what racers need in a trailer. They have over 200 coaches and trailers in stock for a variety of industries, and they can serve anyone in the continental U.S. If you're looking for something custom, they can assist in designing a trailer to fit your needs. Check out their entire inventory online at victorycustomtrailers.com.
He wanted to be known for doing his best.
Sure, right.
His best made him Major League Baseball's most valuable player.
Strike two.
He played in 6 World Series and was elected to the Hall of Fame. Although an honest man, he was best at stealing home.
Save.
But the best quality of Jackie Robinson's life was his character. So here's to you, Mr. Robinson. Thanks for passing it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at Values.com.
I'm Chase Elliott, and you're listening to the Inside Pass.
Welcome back to the Inside Pass, talking about the Coca-Cola 600 Indy 500 double.
Chase Elliott's one to watch for the 600. He hasn't won one yet, but I think he could.
He very well could.
He got robbed last year.
Anytime you put a Hendrick Motorsports car in your sentence, you have to talk win, because it's possible.
I want to talk about, you mentioned earlier we should talk about the pre-race. And I would love to hear Lenny talk about sort of the background that he knows about as far as all the pre-race stuff and working with Humpy and Bruton and Marcus and all of them.
You know, I think it was one of those things that was so obvious to, bring that to the track and let it unfold in front of the fans and grow naturally. And then as more people started to get involved, and you had General Sadler with Speedway Children's Charities, starting to help in within that. And Memorial Day is one of those days that we celebrate the heroes that gave all everywhere so we could do this. And it really just has picked up over the years, the amount of relationship that motorsports in general has. Coke 600, phenomenal. I remember the Stealth going over that Indy race that I was at with Robbie. Sitting there to see a stealth bomber go over your head is just... oh, man.
Pre-race at Indy is crazy. It's like so electric.
The thing about pre-race at Indy, though, it's a smaller cavern there in the front stretch. So it's not. Charlotte does have a better... The vibe outside the speedway, when you're walking down 35th and whatever the road is there at Indianapolis, there's nothing like that. And just all leading into it. But once you get inside the facility, it's a little more cumbersome in there. And that's where I think Charlotte presents better.
I think what I like about Charlotte is like the amount of, you got the merch haulers right as you walk in, and, off like turn 1 and turn 2, there's always like a concert stage set up out there where they've got some music artists. You've got an infield concert. For a good majority of the pre-race, right up until the race starts, you'll see people camped out on the infield turf and just sitting around and talking and hanging out, and people walking up and down signing the start-finish line.
And Indy doesn't have those spots inside like Charlotte does.
No,
but outside, just a little. I mean, the guy standing out there with all the buttons at Indianapolis, it goes back to way before Foyt and Andretti.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, like, for me, I remember when I went in 1989, I went with a buddy of mine, and I remember he had been there before, and he had sort of built a relationship somewhere near close to the track to park, but you had to get there at like 5 in the morning.
Yeah. Not
joking. So literally, we were parking at like 5 or 5:30 in the morning, and you get into the track, and like from the moment you walk in, you can feel that atmosphere. And it just, you see David Letterman and all these celebrities walking around, like it just has...
It's amazing.
This might be calling you out, but didn't you fall asleep during the race?
Well, I was going to get I was going to get there. But so it's like because I remember the year I was there was the first year for the Ford Taurus, I think, and they lowered it out of a plane. Like that was when they premiered it. Like they had this big, like everything is such a big thing. And then, you get the pre-race and back home again in Indiana makes me cry every year.
Taps at Charlotte.
Well, at either track, right? I mean, you have all this emotion. and then they drop the green, and you get about 10 or 15 laps in, and it's almost like you get comfortable. And then, like, I think that's what happened with me, was like 90 degrees, and you're there from 6 in the morning, and you're up at like 4 to get their park or whatever. But, you know, it got going, and I was sitting in the infield third turn, I think in the third turn,
he was
grandstands.
in the snake pit.
And I just kind of went out for like 20 minutes and woke up. And the funny thing is the running order hadn't changed at all. So I really didn't miss anything but a handful of laps or whatever it was at that time. But it was just funny how, you know, but I think the atmosphere there is like nothing else. Now, Charlotte for me is more of a party atmosphere.
You're totally
It's more
right.
of a celebration. Indy seems more serious and sort of really, you know, I don't want to say ritualistic. That makes it sound bad, but just sort of very pomp and circumstance and official. And so, but Charlotte's more of a party.
It is. It's I would say entertainment versus at Charlotte versus just the celebration of the sport history.
Yes.
When you talk to an Indy fan, they will go back and recite lap leaders, things like that. When you go to Charlotte, they're
drunk.
saying,
they had no idea.
Well, they're talking about the current drivers that they're excited about seeing, but they're also going, I can't wait to be at this concert. I'm looking forward to the fireworks and things like that.
Yeah.
They're there for the experience, where the Indy fan is specifically there for the on track.
The tradition.
I remember at Charlotte one year. I don't think it was for the 600. It was for the All-Star race, but I was just, you know, it was a long night, and I was like walking back out of the infield, out of my car, and I stumbled upon a concert. And I was like, I walked, and I was
stumbled into the bass player.
I was in the crowd, and somebody was playing. I think it was Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah, Machine Gun Kelly playing our infield,
playing in the infield, and I just stumbled upon it. And I was like, oh,
You wake up at 3 a.m. and there's a concert going on. You're like, what did I miss? Somewhere like, it's funny because you guys talking about the pre-race show for Indy, and I feel like it starts at like 7 a.m. because it's like a 4-hour pre-race
That's what
show.
I'm saying. Like it's a 4 or 5 hour, but the TV obviously doesn't catch any of the early part of it. You have to be there once, and that's something every race fan should do once to experience the atmosphere. The tradition of it is just incredible. And then, like I said, there's Charlotte, which is like a big, that's why I like the transition, because you had F1, which, I mean, there is no celebration there. It's like, you know, we're just going
Lewis
to go
Hamilton
racing.
has already won the race before the race.
But I mean,
had a very good car, and my engineers, they did well for me.
You're just not going to see
sounds like Daniel Suarez.
You're no concert before an F1
that was my
race,
German
right?
Daniel Suarez.
Then you go to Indy, and you have this sort of tradition and all of the pageantry and the spectacle of it all. And then you get to by the time you're sort of, wow, I've just been through 2 races, and it's like, oh, now it's time to party. You know, break out the 6-pack, boys. Let's go. You know, it's time for NASCAR. So I feel like NASCAR is the appropriate finale for the day.
I finally got to tailgate at a NASCAR race a couple weeks ago at Darlington, and man, those people, the NASCAR fans know how to throw a party.
Yes, they do.
Oh, yes, they do.
There's a tailgate party, and then there's a southern tailgate party. And Darlington's the southern tailgate party. Like, they bring the beer, they bring the whiskey. Like, they're 3 sheets to the wind before the gates even open.
These guys had like concert level speakers just blasting concert. You could hear them as you're walking in through the gate.
Yeah.
And when you're at it,
they've been there since Tuesday.
And when you're there, that's stock car fan. When you're at the Indy, they want to talk about when Sneva raced. They want to talk about Sweet Savage. Yeah. They want to show off, hey, I've got a button or a patch from this or that.
In their tux.
And it's not even just the big names. I'll tell you. I'll tell you a funny story. Bentley Warren was just on Dale Jr.'s download a couple weeks ago. Okay, so now the whole world knows Bentley Warren. Well, Bentley Warren has been known to us open wheel people forever. And so here's the thing: when I went to Indy in '89, I went with a friend of mine who's a photographer and his wife, who happens to be one of the world's biggest Bentley Warren fans. I mean, she started a whole kind of Bentley museum she had or whatever, little in her house, just and scrapbook and everything. Well, she had a Bentley Warren jacket. And we went to Indy. She had the Bentley Warren jacket. You wouldn't believe how many people stopped her. Do you know Bentley Warren? Like, it was crazy. It was like she became some sort of a celebrity because she was wearing that jacket.
Wearing an Elvis Presley shirt.
So it's not even just the big names that have won all the races. They know their guys that have competed, and they're very loyal to them. Yep. Bentley was very popular out there. It's just a different situation. But, yeah, the 600 is awesome. I love it.
I think you go to the 600 and you're going to have that party atmosphere.
Exactly.
And if you're a longtime fan, to your point, Indy becomes a destination because you know enough to appreciate what you're seeing.
That's right. Yeah.
I think it's really fitting for Charlotte Motor Speedway to be one of the first races back with 100% capacity because it is going to be a real spectacle.
Yeah, the celebration of America's heroes.
The military.
I know
yes.
That
Charlotte does that. I mean, Indy's great, but Charlotte does that better than anything else that I've seen racing-wise.
They were going to be ready for whatever 40-50% capacity. They know how to uptick that for the human capital that'll be in there, so to speak. But to instantly start hitting the phones and coordinating with the military to be able to bring in more. We've got a long history and a lot of friends that are within the confines of the decision-making process in the military. Yep. There'll be some great stuff coming.
I remember being at Charlotte one year when Lee Greenwood sang "God Bless the USA."
Every year.
He'll be there.
Every year.
I don't even have to know, confirm it. Lee loves Charlotte. Yeah. Charlotte loves Lee. He's got friends. He has workers within our group that are like, they text him, so I'm sure as soon as things got lifted enough, Lee was like, get me on a bird, I'm going there.
I love that song. The first year he was there, we knew he was going to sing it. He did a presser in the deadline room, and I'm not one for getting my picture taken with people or whatever, but I told Jacob Zillman, I'm like, I want a picture of me with Lee Greenwood because that song again, like Back Home Again in Indiana, that song always gets me in the feels because my dad was naval and have so many family that have served and friends, so it's an amazing song, and he is just he's such a gentleman.
Yes. Yeah. If anybody listening is within arm's reach ever, say hello, thank him for singing it.
Yes.
And he'll stop. Unless he's being shoved. Yeah. He's going to, thank you and your family and recognize he's just a great guy, Lee Greenwood.
That is something special to see the spectacle that is the pre-race show at the 600 for sure.
For sure.
So when we come back from break, we'll talk a little bit more about the 600 and the Indy 500. It's interesting that Brad Keselowski.
We're up into the last segment. This show went by quick.
Wow. It did. Yeah, it's interesting that Brad Keselowski is the defending winner of the 600.
Yes, he is.
So we'll see how if Penske can double that up. He's going to have a lot of competition this year, I do believe, Hendrick. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. More of the Inside Pass returns right after these words.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Automotive technicians and auto service trainees, how would you like to work at the beach and perform for one of the best car care centers in the nation? Louis Meineke is now looking for skilled automotive technicians to join their award-winning team. If you're a gearhead that knows his or her stuff or a young up-and-comer that has the motivation and drive to succeed, then you need to make this call today. 302-827-2054. Louis Meineke Car Care Center, located in beautiful Lewis, Delaware, offers a highly competitive compensation plan, great benefits, a flexible schedule, and did we mention that you're going to be working at the beach? Plus, there's a signing bonus for the right candidates. Technicians must be ASE certified and have a minimum of 6 years experience. Beginners advance at your own pace in one of several entry-level positions. But whatever you do, don't wait. These jobs will go fast. Call Tim at 302-827-2054. That's 302-827-2054. Louis Meineke Car Care Center. Rev up your career.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right, it's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette, it's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
He wanted to be known for doing his best.
Sure, right.
His best made him Major League Baseball's most valuable player.
Strike two.
He played in 6 World Series and was elected to the Hall of Fame. Although an honest man, he was best at stealing home. But the best quality of Jackie Robinson's life was his character. So here's to you, Mr. Robinson. Thanks for passing it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at Values.com.
When Marlon Shirley was 5 years old, he was in an accident and lost his foot, but he didn't lose his heart.
When you tackle a challenge that you just cannot even fathom tackling, when you accomplish that, the amount of integrity and the will and the heart that you'll get from that experience is what will set you up for your life.
In less time than it took Marlon Shirley to say that, he can now run 100 meters because today he's the world's fastest amputee. Overcoming. Pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at Values.com.
Hi, my name's Eric Jones, and you're listening to The Inside Pass.
If you look at the history of the Coca-Cola 600, there's a lot of milestones. When you look at like things that have happened, over the last several years, everybody talks about Martin Truex Jr.'s dominant performance in 2016, where he led all but 8 laps of the race, and just completely smoked everybody. And he also ran the fastest 600 in history at 160.655, 3 hours and 44 minutes. So it wasn't even a 4-hour race when he did it. But then you go and look at some of the other, like even last year when we talked about Brad before the break winning the race, but that set the record for the longest race, the longest 600 race in history, because it got delayed by like an hour and a half because of rain, and actually ended after midnight. So it actually ended on Memorial Day because of an overtime finish, because William Byron spun out with 2 laps to go of the actual race. So he ended up running 405 laps. Last year, when
608 miles.
So a lot of prestigious things have happened. Several drivers have gotten their first wins at the 600, and so Kyle Busch actually, that when he won the 600, you mentioned him winning the 600 in the first segment. In 2018, that was the last track he had never won on of the current. Of course, now we have COTA and Nashville and all the other new tracks on the circuit, but prior to that, that was the last track he hadn't won at, or the last prestigious race he hasn't won, and he won that race. So a lot of things can happen over 600 miles and 400 laps, and a lot of guys can go out there and smoke them. We mentioned Hendrick Motorsports doing the 1, 2, 3, 4 2 weeks ago at Dover, and so it's anything can happen. There's a lot of competition this year, so I feel like any and all teams, much like Daytona and Talladega, almost anybody can win this race. I feel like it's going to be a top quality tier team though, because obviously, with the endurance factor played in, a lot of these smaller teams aren't going to be able to run all 400 laps because their motors just aren't going to be able to keep up.
I don't think we've seen much motor failure.
We haven't also ran 400 laps.
No, it's 600 miles has been the same forever. I think I actually think that this is a race that you could see. And I don't want to say like if you're normally a 25th place team, but could I see? Because again, this comes down to mileage. Sometimes
I could see Michael McDowell doing really well.
Exactly. Yeah. See, this comes down to fuel mileage so often, and I think you could see a team like Front Row, or you
Dylan
could
won 1 year off of fuel mileage. Didn't Jimmy ran out?
Jimmy ran out 2 laps to go.
That was
3-car back in victory lane.
Well, what was the year? Who was it that Kyle finished second to?
It was Dylan.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That was the year he did the drop mic. We had some interesting footage of Kyle that year. But it again, I think this is could you see a Daniel Suarez type, end up again? It's a mileage deal. If you can put yourself close, or even a Tyler Reddick, somebody like that could very well win this race.
How about that 99 team though? They've been really impressive these past couple weeks.
Yeah, they have. They certainly have. They've been really impressive since the start of the year at Daytona.
Trackhouse.
Yeah, Trackhouse. And they really built that organization well, and I feel like they've gotten off to a good start. They're not looking at this as a pressure season. They're just trying to get better and better and better. I feel like I think the second half of the year wouldn't surprise me at all seeing them win.
People talk about Joe Gibbs as a motivator. Justin Marks is a really good motivator.
Yes. Well,
I think Pitbull knows how to spend his money better than Michael Jordan.
Well,
Just being honest.
I mean, we saw a little progress out of that.
It
team
is,
this
yes.
week. He got his first top 15.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
We're on our way there, and I still think they're going to get much better as the season goes on. But Trackhouse, it wouldn't surprise me to see them get a win this year at all.
Yep, for sure. So a little bit of history about the track, because I'm intrigued if anybody actually knows how Charlotte Motor Speedway came about.
Humpy told me one day, but
so in 1959, Curtis Turner came back from Daytona and wanted to build a track on property in Cabarrus County, which is where the track is now.
Yep.
So he wanted to borrow $750,000 to put this track in place. But then he later learned that Bruton Smith had the same idea to build a similar track in Pineville, which is, for those of you who don't know the area, what's southeast of Charlotte.
Yeah, it's down
somewhere
closer to South Carolina.
Yeah. So they formed an alliance and signed a contract to run a 600-mile race on Memorial Day weekend, but the track wasn't built yet. So they started building the track. And then over the course of time, it got closer and closer to the deadline. So, with 2 weeks before the race, they ended up basically threatening the construction company with a gun and saying, if you don't get this track built, we're going to have a problem. And the track was built, and then the race began. And so there's more to the story than that. But
I suppose that's, and I remember, like I said, Humpy telling me, of course, Humpy about.
Oh, yes, his version took 3 hours to tell.
Humpy likes to tell details.
So this one time.
Yeah. But again, when you think about back then, even that number you said, 750,000, you think, well, is that all it took to build it? This was in 1959, folks. That'd probably 7 million now.
Yeah, 750 million.
Adjusted for inflation. But it's it was an incredible deal how that got built, and then of course it's just continued to expand with the little tracks in and out and the drag strip and all of that. I mean, it's really just one of the to me the most incredible NASCAR track layouts with all of the things around it of any place in the country, Lenny. I mean, this area really feels much more to me like NASCAR's home than, say, Daytona Beach, with all due respect to the Speedway.
Bruton was a grassroots promoter, and he's taken and reinvested and then invested in other tracks across the country to continue to build this sport.
Yeah.
It's his focus, and Charlotte's his baby.
Yeah, Mark is carrying that on nicely, too.
Yes, and looking forward to Graham, who's now over at U.S. Legends, working his way on up.
Who is that?
Graham Smith, Marcus's son.
Really?
The third generation.
I believe he just graduated from Furman.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really? Wow. All right. That's cool. I didn't know that.
There's other Smiths in the pipeline, apparently. That's getting ready to do good things. So aside from the 600, obviously, we have the Indy 500 earlier in the day. Entry list is already out for the Indy 500 field. There's 9 past winners in the event, 8 former series champions, and 3 rookies. Which I would say I would ask the panel who the rookies are, but we have a cheat sheet that tells us who they are. 2 cars will go home because there's 35 on the entry list. 33 will start the race. Past winners include Helio Castroneves, Takuma Sato, Juan Pablo Montoya, as well as one-time winners Simon Pagino, Will Power, Alexander Rossi, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Tony Kanaan, Scott Dixon. The 3 rookies are R.C. Anderson, Pietro Fittipaldi, and Scott McLaughlin. 15 countries represented, 13 American drivers, 3 from Brazil and England, 2 from New Zealand, Sweden, Canada, France, Mexico, Spain, Australia, Switzerland, Dubai, the Netherlands, Japan, Colombia, and BFE. Andretti Autosport boasts the most entries with 6. The field is split fairly evenly between manufacturers, 18 Chevrolets and 17 Hondas. So talk about a prestigious race. This is just another race, which we could do in a whole other hour on the Indy 500, but another race with a lot of prestige.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that, Peter, during the show. I think the three rookies, really, I think R.C. Enerson is a bone rookie, and with a really new team. But Pietro Fittipaldi and Scotty McLaughlin have a chance to be factors.
And we were talking about it during the commercial break. We feel like this is a prestigious, an intriguing race because of all the first-time winners we've had in IndyCar this year. I think it's going to be a really exciting race to see, and I'm glad that it's back on Memorial Day like it should be. We are out of time. We thank Lenny Byticki for joining us, and you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend, and we will see you guys in a couple weeks here on the Inside Pass. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.